Hi, everyone, and welcome back to the show. On this special edition of these interview chats and conversations with leaders, HR professionals, and people who are just like you and me, trying to figure our way out in this COVID situation. We really, my name is Chee Tung, and I'm the CEO and co-founder of Engage Rocket, and we put this series together really to help the community, as this is something that's unprecedented, something that we've never really seen before. Some people are even calling this World War III, and here we are all trying to figure things out from our own perspective. And today we have somebody very special here to join us, and we have the honor of welcoming Dr. Tanvi Gautam. She's a multi-award winning keynote speaker, an executive coach, best-selling author on leadership in the age of disruption. And I can't think of a more disruptive time than today. And she's worked with executives and C-suite from every continent in the world. So thank you so much for joining us today, Dr. Gautam.
Thank you so much, Chee Tung, for having me.
So today, as somebody who's really been working on leadership in the age of disruption, somebody who's worked with leaders from companies of all sizes imaginable, how serious do you think this crisis is, and what do you think the fallout is going to be on the workplace?
So I think anybody who you talk to right now will say that this is a very serious situation. I think that given my work on leadership in the age of disruption, I might say this is the perfect storm of disruption that most of us will see in this lifetime, hopefully. That we will not see another such epidemic, but all bets are off right now. And I think what makes it particularly serious and challenging is that it is an interdependent scenario, which means that we can't look at the situation as something that's unfolding out there in China or Europe, and we don't have to bother with it here. It's impacting everybody. And, economies are interdependent, which means it is going to take a toll on everybody. It's also a very complex situation as far as business is concerned, because think of it this way. Production is suffering right now, but even if production comes back on board, consumers are going to take a very long time before they come on board and start spending and all of that. So in fact, I was telling somebody that I think recovering from the virus may be faster than recovering from the economy. And that's what makes this extremely serious. And the third reason why this is very, very serious is because we have no time for calibration. We get hit with one particular piece of news and we're barely getting used to it, or a particular restriction around flying or health checks or stay at home, what have you. We barely wrap our heads around it that we have another avalanche of something else. So there's no time for calibration. So the interdependence, complexity, and not the ability to recover. The number one rule of leading in the age of disruption is that your rate of recovery has to be faster than your rate of disruption. And that's not possible at the moment because the time for recovery is gone. It's kind of like there's no dress rehearsal, right?
Yeah, very true. And if you were to just like estimate, right, like how much do you think businesses' top lines are going to get affected, say over the next 6 months or so?
I think for that you'll have to call Warren Buffett, and even he may not have the answer.
I don't think anyone has the answer, to be honest.
It doesn't. But here's my invitation, Chee Tung, to everybody who's thinking in terms of dollars and cents. You ask this question, right? What is the fallout of this on the workplace? How is the workplace going to change as a result of the crisis? And I am really hoping that some of the changes that will come in is going to be the way we look at what we consider as the metrics of performance of business itself. To look beyond the impact of this on top line and look at the impact of this on the ability of people to carry on. Let's not make any mistakes. Even if COVID comes to an end tomorrow morning, the people who are going to come back into the workplace are going to have been changed forever. And knowing how to engage these people and knowing how to get them back on track is going to have to be a priority. And so for a little bit of time, I would urge everyone to not just be obsessively focused on the top line or the bottom line, but start thinking of metrics that have for long needed to be center stage. And now is the time for us to think about them.
What kind of metrics are you thinking of?
Well, I, for one, would like to know about the emotional resilience of the employees that we are working with. How emotionally resilient are we? Because, today we have a crisis because of the virus. Tomorrow we could be facing this crisis because of climate change.
Mm.
Day after we could be facing this, on some other account. And so how much time have we been spending talking about the emotional resilient quotient of our employees? I mean, I've been doing, of late, been getting a lot of requests from my clients to be doing these webinars on, as an individual, how can we be more emotionally resilient? So metrics of well-being, mental health, engagement, resilience, looking at work as a form of self-expression and not just production are things that we will have to start bringing into our vocabulary and expanding our repertoire of understanding of what corporate performance really is beyond the dollars and cents.
And you've worked with many top leaders from around the world. What are some of the things that they're saying about, as you mentioned, right, when employees come back to the workforce, even if COVID were to end tomorrow morning, when they come back to the workforce, what are some of the fundamental things that are going to change about that workplace that they're going to step into?
I think that there will be an expectation from the employees that the work-life blend that we are being forced to encounter start becoming a more normal part of our day-to-day living and execution. We can also expect these employees to need some support in terms of recalibrating to the new normal, setting their targets, reaching those targets, because it has been a big shock to everybody's system. And I think we are underestimating the psychological impact of this on our employees at the moment. And I would say that the biggest opportunity, I cannot think of a better time for HR to actually take center stage and make something of this situation that we are in the middle of, to start crafting a workplace and a culture that acknowledges the humanity of the employees much more than they have ever done in the past. And I think leaders will have to start doing that as well.
I love that. There's no better time for HR and finding opportunity in the challenges that we're facing. That's very much the whole point of all these conversations. And I love that you're saying that. What do you think, kind of shifting the focus to leaders and HR, what do you think that leaders and HR should do to inspire and reassure their teams, especially during this very uncertain times?
So, Chee Tung, I do a lot of work on corporate storytelling. Because I think the job of a leader, whether we are in a crisis or disruption or outside of it, a very big job of the leader is to impose meaning and purpose in the workplace. So for example, before COVID came along, we were all obsessed with artificial intelligence and its impact into the workplace, or digital transformation and its impact into the workplace. But at the heart of all these things is I used to tell people, I still tell people, when we're talking digital transformation, talk transformation as much as you're talking digital. This is another transformation we are going through. This time it's coming from an external source. It's not internally driven. It's coming from the outside. And any transformation requires that its leaders be able to carry the people with them, through them, by crafting a narrative, a storyline that will get us through this. The narrative that I'm hearing right now is have Zoom can lead. Have Skype and laptop can work. That's not true. Just because you have a Zoom account doesn't mean that you have learned how to lead in a crisis situation. We had toxic leaders in the workplace before COVID came in. They're not going to transform into people managers just because now they are in an online environment. In fact, I might say some of their behaviors might even become worse, right? So the narrative has to shift from business productivity and how to, get your people to do more online, to talking of things like business continuity, emotional resilience, helping your people understand that we will get through this together. And the most important question a leader can ask their people right now to create greater engagement, to help get the teams through, is what can I do to make you feel more supported? And if the answer to that is stop inviting me to so many online meetings, then accept that answer and work with it.
That's a great point. Yeah.
I was reading somewhere today, I think it was in an HBR piece, and I loved it. It said people are over managing and under leading in this crisis. It's too much management going on, not enough leadership, not enough, creating a vision of getting through it. And I get it, because it's difficult, because these are shifting sands. But there are tools, and I know on a secret tool that you guys might be working on right now to manage these shifting sands. I'm not going to say anything about it, but I think it's very exciting.
That is very exciting. And I think you hit the nail on the head, like over managing in a crisis, like making sure that all the processes are in place, getting the procedures right, all these drawer plans that people are pulling up, dusting them off and trying to implement them. But under leading, right? Forgetting all about the people side of the equation. So there's the business continuity plans, all the BCPs that people talk about. But very often those BCPs, the only time that people are talked about is whether they're going to work from home or not, and what should the official communication be. And I think that people continuity plan is so important in engaging those emotions, right?
Yeah. Here's the thing. Let's make a deal. You take care of the emotional engagement and resilience of your people, and I promise you, the bottom line will eventually take care of itself. If you're going to hold back on these parameters right now, the time to recovery is going to be much longer, much longer.
Yeah, I think that's a really good point and a really good business case for business-minded leaders to bear in mind, right? If you ignore your people now, your recovery is at stake. You're gonna be seeing much more of a U shape than a V shape.
That's right.
What are some strategies that we can use? Kind of shifting more to us as individuals and responsible people. Like what are some strategies that we can use to move through this and other crisis situations that are bound to happen in the future?
So I was telling someone yesterday, Chee Tung, that I have been through COVID crisis 6 times. And they're like, what?
Wow.
COVID has happened once. How have you been through it 6 times? I'll tell you how I've been through it 6 times. It's because I have family in 6 different countries. So I have been through that cycle of denial, shock, anxiety, anger, acceptance, action. And believe me, some countries are still not at action stage, shocking as this might sound, right? And the most important thing I have been able to do for my own ability to carry on at the moment has been to disconnect, to mute the hashtag COVID-19 pandemic on my Twitter feed. Because there is a world that still exists outside of this situation right now. Think about it. Poverty, cancer, diabetes, all these issues have not vanished. They still exist. It's just that our attention is not focused on them right now, because obviously this is an unprecedented crisis at a global scale. But what this also means is that there's an opportunity for you to disconnect from this space, get off some WhatsApp groups. I have deleted Facebook and Twitter from my phone because it was too easy to plug into it. I mindfully now go to my desktop to see it. So I'm not saying that pretend it's not happening. It's just that become very selective and mindful in your engagement, because here's the thing. If you don't fill your cup first right now, you will not be able to fill that of anybody else. Be that of the teams that you're leading, be that of your own kids who you're having to comfort in times like this, or your parents who you might be supporting long distance. You have to put yourself and your mental sanity first, so you can show up and be there for all the other people you have to be there for. And believe me, keeping a track on how many more obsessively every hour is not going to stop the crisis. It's only going to erode your resilience. So go do that maybe at 9 o'clock in the morning, 3 o'clock and 6 o'clock. Not at 9 o'clock. I did that a few times and I couldn't sleep at night. But
Really, really good point. Yeah.
you know, you guys are focused and leaders in the area of engagement, but I have to say disengagement also helps sometimes. So
Yes.
every time to kind of pull back a little bit.
Yeah, disconnecting and taking care of your own mental health could be one of the most responsible things you can do for the people around you.
Yes, absolutely, absolutely. It's about not getting consumed by the crisis. We
Mm.
have to stay one step away, otherwise you will get consumed by it, and it can be very distressing to see. Social media and online has brought the whole world into our living room, and it's constantly unfolding, and it is oppressive. So, for the sake of everybody else and yourself, learn to disconnect and disengage for a major part of the day, if not a substantial part of the day.
And last question from me. For you yourself personally, Tanvi, what gives you hope during these times that others should also draw some strength and hope from?
I was asked this question in another interview, so I'm going to repeat myself because all these interviews are happening, and I'm also calibrating my thoughts. But when I think about it, I always tell myself, I said, there has been no recession that didn't come to an end. There has been no pandemic that didn't stop at some point in time. So this too shall pass. This too shall come to an end. And what the only thing we really can do, instead of fretting and wondering and questioning and analyzing and predicting on when this will come to an end, having that awareness that it will, whenever that might be, it will. And your task right now, or my task right now, is to reach for the highest version of who we can be under the existing circumstances. Be that for our neighbors, be that for our colleagues, be that for ourselves. Focus on that piece. Let the rest of it take care of itself.
Wonderful. And on that extremely inspiring and positive note, I'd like to once again thank Dr. Tanvi Gautam for joining us here today and sharing her insights from working with the top leaders in many, many different industries across all the continents. Thank you so much for taking the time, Dr. Gautam.
Thank you so much for having me.